Welcome back, everyone, to the Lawson farm. Today we're working in the garden. We're getting ready to plant some corn. Um, One good surefire way to tell it's time to plant corn is you see that right there? That's the dogwoods. The dogwoods are blooming. And in this area of North Carolina, that's what a lot of people go by, is when the dogwoods go to blooming, it's time to plant corn. So that's just like an old time tale. But anyways, we're down here in the same garden we planted our potatoes in a week ago, and I'm going to plant a few rows of corn down here, and then I'm going to wait a couple weeks and plant some rows of corn up at my other garden at the house. And you know, I like to stagger my corn, like the planting dates. That way I get an early crop, and then I'll get one. That way it's not all coming in at the same time, so you're not just loaded down with a bunch of corn coming in at the same time that you're going to have to fix and freeze and can and eat, whatever you're going to do with your corn. So there's a couple things I want to mention about corn. Corn is a crop that you just can't plant in a raised bed and get enough. You get enough to eat on, I guess, if you want to make one or two meals. But you really need to be planting it in a bigger spot if you want to get enough to really feed your family or even yourself or whatever. You need to be planting it in a bigger spot. So this garden here, when you're over here on the back side, you can see it's not a very big garden either. But it's enough for us. So plus I'm going to have corn up here in the other garden as well, so keep that in mind. But this garden down here has got those 5 rows of potatoes over here. Then we've got, I think, 5 or 6 more rows over here laid off that don't have anything in it. Now, I've already laid these rows off with the tractor a couple of days ago, and it has rained once on them. So they are a little crusted over. And yes, if you're wondering, that's a stump and that's a stump, because we extended this garden. It used to be just this side over here, and we had these trees here. We cut these trees down and to allow more sun in here. So I'm a little skeptical of how corn is going to do on this part over here. I've had corn in this before and it done okay, but this gets a little bit more shade over in here, and I'm a little skeptical, especially from late afternoon on. This part is shady. So that brings me to something here I want to try to mention. Everything over here is a lower growing crop. I'm going to plant my corn over here on these rows because it's a taller crop. And the reason for that is because as the sun is moving across the sky, this is the way it runs down here, the sun is hitting every bit of this for the longest potential it can. So what I'm saying is, this area over here, the corn is going to be tall, okay? Well, this area gets shaded first. And so that corn is going to end up getting shaded out first. However, if I had the corn standing over here, everything that I've got on this side, once the corn got to full height, is going to be shaded. Like this row right here might be shaded longer. And so I'm trying to get the maximum sunlight on my whole garden here that I can, because I am working with a shaded spot. So if this was out in the middle of a really open field, you wouldn't have to worry about that. But that's just something I'm trying to point out, is figure out, if you do have a shaded garden spot, figure out how the sun moves across that garden spot and plant your taller crops to one side and take them across the garden as they, the height of them gets lower and lower and lower. That way you'll never have one crop shaded by another crop, if that makes sense. I don't know, there's a little more thought that probably should go into it than I am, but like I said, I'm putting the corn on one end, and it's going to work your way down to the shorter vegetables over here. Now these rows right here in the middle, I'm going to have probably 2 rows of green beans, and this one row right here is going to be watermelons, I think. I'm not sure about that yet. But anyways, I wanted to talk about what we use to plant our corn. For a long time, I always used a 3-point hitch planter behind my tractor, and that works great, especially if you're planting a lot of corn. However, we're not planting a ton of corn, but we do have enough. Where is our corn? Oh, I have already set it out. Here's our corn, and this is Honey Select, which if you can get your hands on some Honey Select, I tell you what, you really need to. I used to be a Silver Queen man. That's all I would eat for Silver Queen. And then I got hooked on this Honey Select. It's almost like a mix between a yellow and a white corn, and it keeps great. You can freeze it, and we just ate our last bag, as a matter of fact, last week. And that bag of corn was still just as crunchy and juicy as the first ear we got off, that was fresh off of the garden. And I can tell you right now, Silver Queen don't keep that good. It keeps, but it don't do like that. Plus the flavor of it is the flavor and just the crunchiness and the tenderness of the kernel when you bite into it. I can't explain it, but I haven't eaten anything else once I come across this Honey Select. So I highly recommend you trying that if you can get your hands on some. Anyways, back to what I was saying. Normally I use the 3-point hitch tiller. I was for a long time. Then I thought I'd give one of these little things a try. And so far, this is all we've used to plant our garden with since. Little man, you gonna plant the garden with that?
No.
Why? But anyways, this is what we use, and it comes with several different seed plates. They go right here. And depending on what seed you're planting is what plate you want in there. And I've got, obviously, the sweet corn plate. But, you know, this thing works great if you don't have really cloddy soil, which this looks kind of cloddy, but this is just stuff that's laying right on top of the ground. The soil down here works up pretty good. It's just cloddy like this because we worked it when it was wet. But, like, if you've got red clay or rocky soil and anything like that, it doesn't really work that great because the slide right there that spreads the ground apart for the seed to fall will just get clogged up with those clods, and it really doesn't work that good. But we're going to set the camera up here and try to plant us a few rows and see if we can't get a couple rows planted now, and then we'll be planting another row or so in maybe a week, and another row a couple weeks later. But like I said, I just like to spread it out like that so you can plant ahead now, and that way when it starts coming in, you're not loaded down with all of it at one time. Okay, I'm going to show you how this works. Right there's the corn in the hopper. You see the seed corn down in there. And as the wheel turns here, it turns this belt that turns this little pulley here, and then this attaches to this piece. And each one of those little, I guess you'd say, cups, as they come around, they grab a seed. And once they get to, actually, right there, there's a hole. You probably can't see it, but there's a hole right there, and it drops that little seed out of that cup and allows it to fall right down that tube, down through that slot, and into the ground, and then this packing wheel covers it up. Let's see if we can get it planting here.
Is this the Stafford wheel?
That's the packer wheel.
The packer wheel?
The packer wheel, yep. And you see, as this thing rolls, that corn is dropping right down through that slot. I don't think the camera, I'm not sure, but I don't think the camera's picking up that corn. But
Daddy, I can see it go down there.
Yeah, it comes right out that slot. And like I said, that thing splits the ground open. The corn falls in the slot. The chain is supposed to drag dirt back over it, but down here in this soil, it don't really do that good. Then that packer wheel right there helps pack the ground back. And that's pretty much it. These things, if you plant a lot of garden, are really worth the money, I think, as long as you've got good soil to work in. If you've got really rocky dirt and stuff, you know, it's so-so. But anyways, it's a lot cheaper than buying a tractor if you don't have a tractor, and it takes up no room to store it. You can just hang it on the wall somewhere. But anyways, we're gonna get our planting done. I just wanted to show you what was going on and show you how, maybe give you a few tips on planting corn if you don't know it already. We will go back and fertilize this or top dress it once the corn is up, and shouldn't take long. Corn usually comes up within a week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on the rain and stuff you get. But it doesn't take long normally. So anyways, hopefully this was a little bit helpful to you, and we will catch you on the next video.